Okay, while we're waiting on the press for more questions, the young lady from her to do her presentation, if you wouldn't mind, press people. We give her just a representative from Araima.
Good afternoon, members of the head table. Order to just make a slight input on behalf of the Araima Association. The association decided to make a contribution to the Bai Shan Lin issue because their future will affect the livelihood of our members in a major way. I'm sorry I didn't hear what was said before because I arrived late. Today, Bai Shan Lin and other foreign investors have made massive inputs into the economy of our members who hail from Araima, Berbice River. They have done the following things to improve our economic status. Yes. 1. Purchase Omaro, a lesser known species which was not previously in such great demand. Made machinery, skidders especially, available and easily accessible to loggers to make logging possible and successful. These machinery have improved our access roads, extraction, loading, etc., that are basic requirements of the logging industry. Usually, payments are prompt and reliable. Members have developed skills, residents and members have developed skills that give them more earning power. Example, operating skidders, trucks, etc. All of these factors have greatly improved the economic status of our members and persons who depend upon them to the value of millions of dollars. 30 members before, an additional 18, and another 18 prospective members. You can do your mathematics. We would like Bai Shan Lin and other foreign investors to remain and continue to make an impact on our economy, but we have a greater expectation of them. We speak of investors in the logging industry, bauxite industry, and other mineral industries. When Guyanese and foreign investors apply for concessions, Guyanese must be given equal consideration or priority in acquiring same. Foreign investors should continue to make contributions to the development of our roads. If they destroy our roads, they should repair or rebuild them. They should make substantial contribution to our services, example, health, education, sports, you name it. Health, maybe purchase of an ambulance or whatever, education, bursaries, scholarships, grants, etc. And I said, I'm making general reference here to foreign investors, so I include Rusal. I know they're doing some of that. Sports, gears, sponsorship, and so on. They should at all times operate within the laws of our country, and specifically for the logging industry, the laws of GFC. Operators, drivers, etc. must be licensed to do so. Guyanese who are employed in these industries must at all times be treated fairly in keeping with the labor laws of our country. They must be represented by a union if possible. Investors and their reps doing business with us, Guyanese, must communicate with us in a respectful way. I would like to highlight Tracy of Wronghand Industry, who is extremely disrespectful according to persons doing business with her. In closing, we anticipate, a brighter future in store for Guyanese with law-abiding, foreign investors operating in our country and communities and making a positive impact on our economy, especially in USD. As I said earlier, these expectations are not only for the logging industry, but for our gold, bauxite, and other industries. I would also like to compliment Guyana Forestry Commission for their inputs in our logging industry in Guyana.
What is going on in the logging enterprise in Guyana?
One of the things we heard, a letter we would receive, I think, from Mr. Bang was that if Bai Shan Lin's operations are disrupted, it means that small loggers will be affected because they would sell your logs to Bai Shan Lin.
Yeah, I just sell a lot to not Bai Shan Lin, we had a Chinese too.
How many other Chinese companies do you sell logs to?
I will sell to one, about 3 others. Mr. Zai. Yeah, and they have about 2 others. I can't remember the name.
But how is this, or how has this, the whole issue with the sea logging, how is it affecting your operation?
Okay, well, our operation, we would summon the Chinese to give us an advance up front, even before we start working the logs. That's what they would give us. And then we would honestly get it out for them on the road, and then we take it over from there.
So you all have never had any problems
Can
in terms of
take your seats? We're about to begin in a few minutes.
Any problem?
payment issue? Because we would have seen, I think, in Region 1 in Cubano, residents there said that they had some problems in accessing their payments.
No, we'll be dealing with a main one, Mrs. Zaya. We don't have any payment issue. He gives advance, and then when it is clear, then then he pays off. And so
Which part of Region 10 are you from?
from right now,
Ladies and gentlemen standing outside, could we all gather inside, please? We're about to start.
No, you all together.
Please, let's.
We'd like to get a comment from you on your participation in the forum today.
My participation as it regards to
Well, based on the writings the media would have gotten from Mr. Bang was if Bai Shan Lin's operations were to cease, it means that the small loggers will be affected severely.
definitely. My participation here is because it has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with Mr. Bai. No, it has to do with our organization being a part of Kokwani. We need the Chinese, not just Bai Shan Lin, but the Chinese in general. Our operation depends a lot on the Chinese investment and their input. Right now, if you think about closing, moving the Chinese out here, a lot of these organizations would close down. That's what would happen. We are on the verge of an economic boom, and in my opinion, it would be an economic collapse if the Chinese move out from it. That's my opinion.
There have been calls, I mean, put aside the politicians, the other persons in the forestry sector, you've had international organizations who have been saying that based on the logs that are, or the deforestation happening right now will affect Guyana severely, and there is need for proper regulatory regulations of that industry. Do you support that call, or you don't?
Well, I would support any call that would want to keep the forest to some degree, but I think Guyana's deforestation rate is very, very low. I think it's 1 point something per annum for the last 20 or 30 years. It has never changed really, and I don't think what we're doing is significantly deforesting our forests. What we're doing is sustainable harvesting, and sustainable harvesting would take into consideration the amount we harvest per year. which I think is just 1 point something percent. I can't remember the exact figures, but I know that we're not deforesting our forested lands. And as it relates to what you were saying just now concerning regulations, I think there are regulations in place. The GFC, the scrutiny is so tight. Sometimes you know, long time when you used to see the wardens, the gold warden in the mining sector. You used to frighten when you see a warden. So the forestry, the sector is. When a man see a forest officer, it's like a headache, you know. Watch a forestry officer come in there again, you know what I mean? So the Forestry Commission is doing a very good job in controlling and monitoring and that sort of thing. So it's not like there's no checks and balances, and they're doing their job.
I think one of the problems we also have is that international agencies would have been providing different figures to that of the Forestry Commission, and they would have claimed that their information was received from the Forestry Commission, which is one of the problems that we currently are faced with right now, in that these agencies are saying that, well, the figure seems to be higher, the forestry is saying no, even though forestry would have supplied those figures.
Well, ma'am, with all due respect, I'm not privy to those figures, but in my opinion, I doubt whether the Forestry Commission would falsify figures to give to the international organizations, whoever they may be, Norway and ever else, Germany, who they have to audit. I doubt that, and I won't have those figures, I won't know. But in my opinion, I think that the Forestry Commission would supply to them the figures that would be correct.
What's your name, sir?
Mr. Boyle, Brian.
The heads of the different associations, can you come forward here at the table?
Evening, afternoon to each and everyone present here today. I'm your chairperson for this occasion. My name is Dennis Muhammad, aka Jafar. I'm holding 2 steering committee for the Small Loggers Association, regions 1 through 10, and also chairperson of the LAFPA, Linen Agriculture and Forestry Pursuits. Not here in defense of anyone. We're here in defense of ourselves. What do I mean by that? We're not here in defense of the Forestry Commission, because I think they did a wonderful job yesterday in defending themselves. We're not here to defend the administration of the day, because I think they can defend themselves. We're not here to defend the opposition parties, because I think that they could do a good job in defending themselves. But we're here because of our personal reasons. Those personal reasons are, you would hear a few of them in a couple of minutes when you hear the different representatives from the different associations that are present here. But this incident that concerned logging and lumber work in Guyana has touched each and every community in this wonderful country of ours. What you saw here today are representatives of the different logging associations in Region 10. And this is only some of them. And the different logging associations in Region 10, they are speaking with one voice. They all are saying the same thing, that in the event of anything go wrong with our investors, and you see I did not just say Bai Shan Lin, but in the event of anything go wrong with the investors that we depend on for our daily bread, it will definitely have an effect on the Small Loggers Association. But today they're all here to speak for themselves. I am speaking on behalf of the different logging associations, but they're also here to speak for themselves. But before we allow them to speak for themselves, I would like to give you a chance to hear from the consultant of the LAFPA, one who would give you a preview, a history, today where we stand as Small Loggers Association and where we intend to go in the future. So without any further ado, I'd ask Mr. Philip Bino to come up here and give us a few opening remarks. Mr. Bino.
It is good that we are gathered here today. We gathered today as representatives and members of Region 10 community logging associations. It is a good day because we fought for this. We fought to be given forested land in our different communities. We fought a ding-dong battle in 2001. Today, the logging associations in Region 10 stand tall. They are now in a position to be able to harvest the forest, find markets for their produce, and be able to satisfy the needs of their members and their families. This was not always so. The first tract of land that was given to the Region 10 Forest Producers Association was 44,000 acres of land at Macquarie on the Essequibo coast. And that was given in 2001. That was the first time in the history of Guyana that any piece of forested land was given to any logging association in any community in Guyana. And that land was given by the government. That land had belonged to a foreign Trinidad-based investor, and it was taken back by the government and given to the Region 10 community. And that was the beginning. But that beginning only achieved one of the two objectives. The two objectives were, A, Region 10, which is a forested region, must have its fair share of forested land that we can depend on as a people to harvest and to reap and to convert into money so that our families can grow. I wish to digress a bit for a minute and tell you a little story. In the late 1970s, when the then Burnham government was dividing the country into regions, one of the basic criterion for establishing different regions was that each region must have its fair share of resources so that its inhabitants can use those resources for their development. When you consider and ask yourself what are the resources of regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the coast, you will tell yourself that they are agricultural land and access to the ocean, fisheries and agriculture. And the communities on the coast use these resources not to the maximum, but they use them exceedingly well. And that is why you see so much prosperity on the coast. It's simple. It's not rocket science. The hinterland communities like Region 10 we had three kinds of resources. We had minerals. Minerals can be divided up into bauxite, gold, diamond. And we had forests. Prior to 2001, we had no say in what became of our forest. I could remember what started the move, what started the battle in 2001 was that small loggers in Ituni and Kokwani were jailed. Their chainsaws were taken away. Their tarpaulins were burnt, and they were beaten by the police, who took on the added job of forest rangers, and who at the time listened to the big concession owners and even went to the small loggers' homes where the tractors were parked, where they had boards cut up under their homes, carried away the boards, went into their bedrooms, took away the chainsaws, and carried away the tractors. The resources that were demarcated for Region 10 could not have been utilized by its inhabitants. So people of Region 10, you must not take lightly what you have achieved over the past 12 to 13 years. But like I said, Region 10 now has 800 to 900,000 acres of land distributed to the different forest organizations in Region 10. But having the land is one thing. Having the capacity to effectively exploit the land is another thing. And the latter you did not have. And by and large, you still do not have. During the early days, only 3 or 4 species of wood used to be sold. Green heart, purple heart, locust, crabwood, and now and again more sleepers. Kabakali, I am reminded. But now, any wood that is usable is sold. Now, a wood that we used to cut up as firewood, chop it up, split it, put it on trucks, and sell it as firewood, is now one of the most sought after woods in Guyana, and I refer to Womara. All of your so-called other species are being sought after. And this turnaround came about because the Chinese investors came to Guyana and they found markets for these species. They transformed firewood into a means of economic growth and development. They caused you now with your chainsaw to be able to harvest the log and sell it at the stump. Many of them go to the stump and extract your logs. Nowadays, you can get advance payment for your logs that you have not yet cut. You just have to demonstrate through your association that you have access to so many cubic meters, and you can negotiate with the Chinese to get an advance, and you can use that advance to help yourself harvest that wood. So the advent of the Chinese brought with it an entire change of circumstance for the small logger. Quite recently, either A, because of the lack of understanding of the way the Forestry Commission operated and the way it was monitored and managed, or B, because people harbor their own personal agendas, the Chinese, principal among them, Bai Shan Lin, was target for a particular newspaper. And 90% of the things that were told in the newspapers in a sensationalized manner were untruths. And many of you sitting here today, if not all of you, know that many of those things are untruths. Because many of the logs that you see in the papers purportedly belonging to Bai Shan Lin, I know that many of those logs belong to you. We know that the mountain of logs that they are now moving out was sold to them in 2012, 2011, 2013, and those logs were accumulated. But what really draw our attention to the issue properly is when the politicians called for Bai Shan Lin to be shut down. And we all know that if Bai Shan Lin shuts down and the other Chinese operators shut down, what that will mean to the small loggers in Region 10. We all know. And so the small loggers in Region 10 had to speak again with one voice. We had to defend our livelihood, and we had to demonstrate that above all, we are not afraid. Above all, we are prepared to vigorously and robustly defend what we consider to be our right to harvest the forest and to sell our produce. The resources allocated to Region 10 are in Region 10. We're not going to another region for it. They're in Region 10. We are born in Region 10. As I look in here, the average age here is about 30-something. Young people. Young people. Young people who want to harvest the forest now because you're confronted with what we call the fierce urgency of now. Now. You want to cut the tree and sell it now because you need money to look after your family now. You need to buy school books for your children now. You need to build a house now. You don't want to wait until you get old and creaky and cranky and then hustle. You don't want to wait for some imaginary downstream value added. The armchair economists and politicians sit in Georgetown and they talk about value added. But you don't want to wait. You cannot wait on value added. You get market for your logs, you cut your logs, you sell your logs, you use the money to develop yourselves and your family. And what is going to happen now from this conundrum, from all these contretemps that have arisen between the Forestry Commission and Kaieteur News and whosoever else, the small loggers are going to emerge stronger. We're going to defend our birthright better. We're going to organize ourselves better. For example, although we sell to the Chinese will go to Region 10 and they will buy Wamaro from John Joe's for $50, Harry Smith for $60, Shirley for $70, and Tom Jones for $10, varying prices. And they pit logger against logger. They forced you to drop your price, and you cannot get the full benefit for your product. One of the things emerging out of this little problem that we have here is that the small loggers in Region 10 will establish a centralized marketing council that will be responsible for selling timber to whosoever will may come at one centralized price. And I can assure you, the starting off price for that, once the different associations can agree and set up the mechanism to have this done, the starting off price for that is going to be what the real price for Wamaro is. If I should tell you that an average price for CIF Wamaro in 2 Chinese ports is in excess of $800 a cubic meter. You may say US, 800 US a cubic meter. You will say I'm exaggerating. And if you calculate that number backwards and you establish what it is going to cost for freight and insurance, you will get an idea of the true value of your wood. And you will want to come together faster and stronger to defend it. This is one of the things we're going to do today. We may have had several problems with the Forestry Commission, different problems. While the Forestry Commission is doing an exemplary job at managing the commission and monitoring the forest, there are a lot of niggling issues to be addressed with the logging associations and the Forestry Commission. A number of these issues will come up here today for clarification and for discussion with the Forestry Commission. So, as Mr. Jafar Mohammed said, we didn't come here to attack nobody. If we didn't want to attack anybody, we would have come to attack. We didn't come here to attack nobody. We come to defend nobody. We come here to look after and advance our own interests. At this meeting, representatives of the different associations will come up here and they will discuss with you their position, the association's position, the problems we're having in Region 10. The Kokwani people have a lot of problems with the roads, the way the Linden Kokwani Road, the condition it's in, the way it's being utilized. That's going to be discussed. We're going to be discussing issues dealing with the quota system and what happens if in 1 year you only cut 20% of your quota, but in the next year that 80% is not added to the next year's quota. What will happen there? We want to discuss what happens with the so-called unequal treatment between different groups in the Forestry Commission. All of those things we're going to discuss. But at the end of the day, since we're all from Region 10, there is a reason why we didn't keep this meeting in Region 10. There is a reason why we came to Georgetown. Because the people in Georgetown have been susceptible and gullible, particularly to the Kaieteur newspapers. They do not understand what goes on in the forest. Some of them never went to the forest. They don't know how it stays. They don't know the difference between Jumbi Bobby and Congo Pump. And they make statements in the media about the forest. So we decided to come to Georgetown to have this little gathering and to hope that the positions will be made known, etc. But folks, we will have our discussion in an amicable and decent manner. We will all share our views. At the end of the day, we will put together a concise document which we will take to the Chinese, to the Forestry Commission, and to whichever government agency it's necessary to go. And I can assure you, whereas in 2001 the Region 10's approach was pickets and demonstrations and marches and candlelight vigils, in 2014 our approach will be discussions and talk and negotiations and establishing the strength of our position in that manner. We want to establish stakeholders who will work with us to further develop our associations and Region 10. I want to stop talking now and let you talk. But I want to tell you, we're not looking back. This is the beginning of better things to come. And this is the strengthening of a greater strength that we must develop. Thank you very much.
In our organization. Well, let me quickly quote the saying of two men. Many of you would be acquainted with a man by the name of Stokely Carmichael from Trinidad and Tobago. On his dying bed, the three last words that he said was 1, organize, 2, organize, and 3, organize. So Kaieteur, Stokely Carmichael, said 3 words. The last 3 words on his dying bed was organize, organize, organize. My leader, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said to us that half-truth is worse than a lie itself. And why Elijah Muhammad said that? Because a lie is a lie. You can't change that. But half-truth, what it does, it confuses people. Because sometimes they read the right thing and another time they read the wrong thing. So they're confused. So half-truth is worse than a lie itself. I just want to caution each and every one of us right here today to be careful with half-truths. Let's get our facts together and get it right. But on behalf of the LAFP, one issue we would like to see to bring some level of semblance to is the issue of all investors, all major investors. And this is not necessarily loggers, even though we're dealing with loggers today. We need to see all major investors in our region playing a more supportive role to our community in terms of the social aspect. What do I mean by that? Many of our communities are lacking in terms of our health centers. Many of our communities are lacking in terms of our social group. For example, when you go to Kokwani, which I visited a few days ago, when you look at the soccer field, it is not what it was in the earlies. When you come to Region 10, you would see the same thing. Many of our soccer fields and basketball courts, it is not what it was in the earlies. And we're simply saying this, socially, each and every one of these companies, they can do better. And we will force them to do better. Because we're saying once you're coming into our community, and the small man, this is what needs to be known, because I'm a small businessman of Linden. The small business people of Linden and Kokwani and Aichuni, they give back directly to the community, regardless of how little it is. We give back to our community. And we're saying to the large investors that you owe us that same obligation. We should see, well, the Kokwani people would go into the roads. I won't touch that because that's a sore point, but I'm with you with that. But we need to see our health facilities being strongly supported by these mega companies that are coming and taking resources out of our community. In terms of sports, our sportsmen should not be in a position where they're wanting to move from point A to point B or even be outfitted anymore after we would have finished here today. But I don't want to go into much more. What I do know, I asked the other organizations, beginning with Blueberry Hill to my right, to come up here and say exactly how they see things from their organization.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Goring, or Mark Caesar, from the Blueberry Hill Forest Producers Association. Our motto is enhancing livelihood through sustainable forestry. We currently occupy an area of 13,000 acres of land in the Region 10 area. We sell our lumber and logs locally and internationally, primarily China. Recently, as we all know, we got here because of the widely publicized information in the media about the forestry sector. Unfortunately, whatever is being said in the media, it's being treated as gospel in the international community. And if we sell on the international community, then the developed country takes illegal stuff very seriously. And we're here to say that whatever we do is legal and sustainable. We are a group of people who depend primarily on logging for our livelihood, and we trust that this, whatever we come here to do today, will go in a very, I should say, organized way so that we can achieve our benefit. Prior to 2007, Womara, as a species, is the species that is currently the best price in the market, was a lesser used species. Fortunately for us, the Chinese investors have come to this country and they have placed a value to that species. They have sought that species, and over the past couple of years, this species, the price have been growing tremendously. And because of that, each and every one of you here have been benefited some way or the other, directly or indirectly, right? And we know that the Womara market will continue to grow. So we want to clarify everything to everybody that we are doing everything legally, and we want everybody to ask the question that they really want to ask so that they can get the correct information. I attended the press conference that the Guyana Forest Commission held yesterday, and I think the commissioner have done a tremendous job in explaining everything. I myself was a part of the commission, and I accredited the commission for being one of the best run institutions in this country. I can attest to that any day, right? And concerning the price, I really like the idea that Mr. Bino come up with, that we're going to have a centralized committee that will deal with pricing, because we also would like to have the direct benefit, what this Womara really have, so that we can enhance our life and develop ourselves more sustainably. I don't think I have any more to say. The other association will present their point, and I just hope that we organize ourselves properly and get everything on board. Thank you.
Founder and executive member of Kokwani Natural Resources Organization, also known as KNRO. I would like to present our position on the... Sorry, I'd like to present our position on the issue regarding the Chinese investors in Kokwani specifically. Urgent issues for further community enhancement and improved relations among the Chinese investors, Guyana Forestry Commission, Kokwani Natural Resources Organization, and the people of Kokwani. The small loggers community and residents of Kokwani stand on the threshold of an economic explosion, which can see the realization of progress and development, or an economic collapse which can spiral very quickly out of control. The ongoing saga surrounding Chinese investors in Guyana has created an atmosphere that, again, people's livelihood is seemingly threatened. While the bureaucrats battle at the top, the people are trapped beneath with seemingly no regard for what happens to them next, and no consultation with them in the process. Foreign investors operating within Kokwani that are known to the residents at this time are the Chinese and Rusal. The Chinese buy mostly Womara logs from small loggers in the community. Before logs are sold, strict guidelines regarding the harvesting of forest produce must be followed. Log tracking tags enable the tracing of logs right back to the stump in its place of origin. GFC have been diligent in ensuring that regulations governing verification of origin, sustainable logging, and environmental practices are followed. Stump inspections are carried out by GFC officers many times at short notice. The Chinese use their machineries to extract, load, and transport produce for small loggers. They provide a ready market and allow small loggers to have a steady income. Yet, the daily use of the road in the transportation of logs have contributed to its disrepair. Rusal, a foreign bauxite company operating in Kokwani, provide gainful employment for many in Kokwani and Araima. But Rusal's use of the road also contributed to its disrepair. The mines road leading from Kokwani Gate to the Bisruni Junction, which is their responsibility to upkeep, is in a worse condition than any of the roads taking center stage at this time, but nothing is being done about it. Rusal also traversed the access road to Mr. Nyamatali's sawmilling complex to transport their workers, while the continued maintenance of this road has always been done by Mr. Nyamatali, also known as Amarali. What was done so far by the Chinese? Bai Shan Lin. They contributed to the building of a dam at Kokwani waterfront when the high tides covered the landing in 2009. They contributed to the building of the Kamakabra Bridge in 2010 in the Aichuni-Kokwani Road when the main bridge was swept away as a result of heavy rains. They refurbished and continue to maintain the Bisruni Road from their compound at Bisruni to 53 km and beyond. Rongan. We simply cannot ignore the significant and vital role Rongan played in the refurbishing of the UNAMCO Road in 2012. In October of 2012, several associations from Region 10 and 2 stakeholders signed an MOU with GFC to fix the UNAMCO Road. These are Kokwani Natural Resources Organization, the Upper Barbies Forest and Agriculture Producers Association, Aichuni Small Loggers Association, Linden Agriculture and Forest Producers Association, Pioneer Investments, Araima Forest and Agriculture Producers Association, Mac Enterprise, Daynault, and concessionaire Gansham Mahes. Rongan provided the engineers, workmanship, and heavy machinery needed. Works on the UNAMCO Road included the widening, grading, laterite from 21 km to 110 km, a detour at 47 km, and all bridges have been repaired. Overall cost for this project as of January 2014 was $88,961,185 Guyana dollars. Of this amount, GFC footed the bill for $58,701,365. This road now allows easy access to and from concessions for all forest producers, as well as miners and other road users. What needs to be done for the Chinese? 1, roads. The upgrade and maintenance of community roads and the Kokwani to Linden Road. 2, community involvement. Contribute to the infrastructural, social, and economic development of the community in which you operate. 3, price increase. Increase the price for Romaro to US $220 per cubic meter at the Hard Road or the Timber Depot site. Measurements. The practice of taking 2 cm off the measurements need to change and pay for measurements that you receive. GFC grading rules does not stipulate that 2 cm must be taken off from the original measurements when payment is being made. For GFC, number 1, more lands. Lands are a renewable resource, but in sustainable logging, a second crop is not likely right away. At present, KNRO has only 40 members and provide employment for over 210 persons. Those include tractor drivers, chainsaw operators, laborers, and office staff. We have close to 80 applications awaiting the distribution of more lands before they can be approved. Number 2, quotas. In light of the fact that some concessionaires were unable to complete their allowable cut in the past, it would be helpful if GFC would consider reallocation of these quotas to concessionaires in Region 10 who are completing their quotas. Number 3, equality. Equal opportunity for local and foreign investors alike in the allocation and distribution of lands and in the paying of fines and penalties. It has always been a concern of many that foreign investors are perceived to be given more preference, shown more respect, more interest, and allowed to break the rules with a pat on the back. For the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, we cannot overemphasize the need for more lands in all the divisions of KNRO. Acquiring lands for farming and mining would enable us to diversify from the dependence on the forest and thereby reduce the impact of logging on the environment. In closing, while we consume our energies to polarize over issues that can be resolved through meaningful dialogue across the world, murderous rampage and human rights violations, ethnic violence, disease, and famine plague other nations. People are fleeing for their lives, displaced and living in tents and squalor, needing food and medicine and things we take for granted, like drinking water. We need to be thankful to God for being fortunate that so far, despite our share of social ills, our country has been spared the destruction and devastation that have befallen other nations, and we are privileged to enjoy the peace that other nations long to have. All that we fuss and fight over belongs to no one but God. When we came into this world, we brought nothing, and when we leave, we shall take nothing. Let good peace and good judgment prevail as we seek to resolve our issues. Thank you.
representative from ISLA, Ituni Small Loggers Association of Ituni Community. I won't want to stress longer on the issues that I've raised. What I would like to do, I would like to bring to you a little piece of history of Ituni. In 1983, when the bauxite industry closed its mine of Ituni, the people of Ituni were left with no means of sustenance. We, I would consider, as the pioneers of chainsaw
And I'm very happy to be here this evening because through this logging association I'm here. It brings me back a far way back for the past to see that what's happening today. I heard all the concern concerning the association in Region 10. I represented on the NTC meeting and the 20-person executive at the NTC. And that brings me right back right now here to speak concerning the price of Wamaro. And not Wamaro alone, but other species. The Wamaro, for the past, we get a little bit of price for it. But I do hope that after this meeting is finished, we could get more of the price of the Wamaro so that we could have a better livelihood in our community. We speak about it now, but I hope that it comes true. I hope that it didn't fall on deaf ears. And that is very important for all of us here today, that we could get up and get. The price is there, but we have to seek for it. And as we seek for it, we could be able to get a price for the Wamaro and other species of wood, like kawakali, locust, and the rest. Not Wamaro alone. So when we are selling Wamaro with other species, would be better for us. And also I would like to say this, on the reservation, we would like to join too with the association with the price on other reservation downwards the Borges River. We cannot leave the association alone with the price. We are to join with them too and make it a real successful. Without you, without us, we cannot do nothing. And furthermore, without God, we cannot do nothing. I want to say this. I want to say thank you for everyone who is here.
Thank you, that's the show of Ururu. We now ask the head of the Logging Association in Uru to come forward and give us a few remarks.
Good day, everyone. I want to firstly thank the sponsors and the facilitators of this program today. I want to say it's a very good initiative, as it would bring all the issues faced by the various forestry small loggers associations on board, so we can leave here with a common ground, with proper resolution on issues that need to be addressed. I want to say that, give you a little highlight about Uru. Uru is an Armenian community, Armenian village, governed by a council with its council, Tushau, and councillors. It has about 600 residents living there, which about 250 are adults. It depends solely on logging as a means of livelihood. That is one part of the coin in terms of logging at Uru. Subsequently, in 2011, a group of persons came together and they formed the Uru Forest and Agriculture Producers Association. We started with about 24 members. We had about 12,000 plus acres given as a concession, and we continued to work. I'm happy to say we only faced 2 custodies and penalties during the course of that time to now. We are facing challenges like getting the wood out of the back dam. That's a very big issue. What I want to say, we continue in the struggle. Presently, we have 32 members, having been granted addition to our present SFP. We got about 7,000 plus acres. So we were able to take in another 8 persons in our organization. Commenting on the issues that we have in immediate lately, I want to say that investors place their money into a project to generate funds, to generate profits. Being foreign, they would, of course, get certain concessions from the present government or the agencies concerned, so that they could survive and maintain and sustain their operations. And I think the GFC, who is responsible for regulating forestry issues, has been doing an exemplary job over the years. I mean, at times it would be hard with us to maintain the rules and regulations. But I think they have been very reasonable, and they perform at an exemplary level in giving us the lands that we need to survive, and even to give us land plus land plus land. We're getting a lot of concessions adding on. And so I want to commend them for a good job being done. Of course, we have the issues about prices. That is another issue which the other speakers spoke about. And I think we need to look at how we can get something more for the produce we've been having been sold. The issue is, who is buying Wamara? It's the Chinese. Bai Shan Lin is buying, Rongan is buying, Mr. Zai Guang, which we deal directly with, the Turu, is buying. These are the persons who are facilitating the production and the sale of Wamara and some other species. And it is only fair that we uphold what they're trying to do to create investment, to create livelihood for us, to give us income, and we support them. I want to say one thing. We, as the small loggers in Region 10, we faced with a lot of issues in terms of employment and opportunities of employment and so on. And should Bai Shan Lin and the other Chinese companies be closed or be affected in their investment, we all will suffer. Because who would buy the Wamara? Who would give you cash at the stump, as Mr. Bino rightly said. Our organization, we get paid to the stump. Mr. Zai Wang gives us advance to the stump. He loans us his equipment to extract those produce. All of that. I want to say in concluding though, we are looking forward for these companies to be more corporate citizens. We're asking that they put more into the social fabric of our communities. Sports, health, roads, maintenance, and so on. We're asking for that. So to conclude, I want to thank first the GFC for providing us with the opportunities to work those lands, giving us the concessions. I secondly want to thank the Chinese investors who are mainly the investors that buy Wamara and other species. And last but not least, I would like to thank the government of Guyana for giving us the opportunity via the GFC to have these lands to work. Thank you.
Thank you. We would ask now another representative from Kokwani to come forward and give his remarks. But before he comes forward, I just want to give us an encouragement. What we should be focusing on, family of Region 10, is to build on what we already. I think the Kokwani woman is here. I think she stated the figure in her presentation.
As it relates to figures, direct benefit from the Chinese, if we were to state figures, off the top of my head, I know my chairman is very good with figures, Mr. Leps, but he's not here. But let me just throw something out at you and you can do the math. For the period 2012 and up to this July of 2013, KNRO would have sold approximately 5,900 thereabout, approximately cubic meters of Wamara to the Chinese company, different Chinese buyers. And if we were to use a figure of $60 to stump, 60 US to stump, it would run basically to the exchange rate something like $115 million. But if we were to use the more realistic figure at the roadside, it's not the stump, which is 140 US. And now we're asking that if we could get 220 US, which is what we're looking for, 140 US would calculate to something like 270 million. That's the kind of figures we're talking about. That is over a 18-month period that KNRO, Kokwani Natural Resources Organization, would have already sold to the Chinese. So I don't know if that answers your question. That's basically, that would give you an idea of the kind of input the Chinese had in the organization, at least in our organization, and I think in other organizations the figure might be even higher because UBFPA is a bigger organization than KNRO. We only have 40 members. UBFAPA, which is our mother organization, we have actually came out from that organization and formed another organization. They would have in excess of 160 members now, thereabout. So we're talking about 3 times the size of KNRO. And we're talking if we were to use a realistic figure, and I don't know what that figure would be if we get into 20 for cubic meter, which we're looking for. And Mr. Bino said just now that the actual figure that is being sold in China for is 800 and thereabout. And you know, I guess does that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
I know, Svetlana, you asked for more than one association. And they told you that I'm representing the Region 10 Association. We now tied up in a contract with Mr. Ronghan, and that contract is in excess of 60 million Guyana dollars. That's just with one buyer, Mr. Ronghan. That contract is in excess of 60 million Guyana dollars. Well, different mix, Green Heart, Purple Heart, and Wamaro. for the contract to finish? Well, because of unforeseen circumstances, sometimes those contracts could be extended, even though there might be a particular time frame, with flexibility both from the seller and the buyer.